Throughout your whole run, you only want to rest between 2 to 3 times. That is it. If you are resting more than that, you are leaving a bunch of stats on the table. As someone who spent a good chunk of time training some horse girls, I have some experience working with the system, and I do believe that it gets a lot more hate than it deserves, and I'm 99.9% sure that if you hate the system, it's primarily because you don't understand it. So my goal with this video is to help you understand so that you can actually enjoy your runs of the system and make it so that you really only have to do it once in order to get a very good build. And then once you have your core team set up, you can go ahead and just auto and still get some very good builds because you will actually understand how the system functions and how you can optimize for it without spending a whole bunch of time. So the battle against the system actually does not even start in this screen. We're going to go ahead and go into our Arcanas. It's going to be super important for you to actually look at what Arcanas you have so you can start making a plan and decide if it's worth it to hop in and actually start training your characters. Now, the elephant in the room. Are Arcanas worth it, and should you be spending gems on Arcanas? And the answer is 100% yes. You do want to invest some resources into your Arcanas because they're going to give you some incredible passives that will spike the characters that you have. However, they will always be secondary to you actually getting your characters. So once you actually have your God rule, you got a couple of copies of her, and you actually got a solid foundation of a team, I would definitely go ahead and dump anywhere from 5 to 10k gems on this banner alone just to get a couple of SSRs, and then it will at the end of the day be full RNG. If you didn't already know, these are the main Arcanas that you want to go ahead and strive for, and I'll probably put a couple of extra here that I've read that are pretty decent, so if you get them, just know that you will find some use for them. Now, because I haven't seen a lot of content creators really cover this, and let's be honest, you probably don't have all day to go ahead and read each of these Arcanas, I'm going to give you just a quick breakdown of how you can actually identify if you have a good Arcana in your roster, how far you should level it up, and what are some good stopping points for each of the Arcanas. So whenever you start planning, you really want to determine if you're going for a DPS or if you're going for a tank or support. For this example, we'll go ahead and use a DPS, so I would recommend you select the strength tag so that you know exactly what you're working with. Immediately off rip, we can see that my account has gotten pretty lucky. I have 4 SSR Arcanas with the strength status. And if we select something like Under the Glass Moon, you can see we have a bunch of data that you probably don't even know what to do with. So here's the bread and butter of your Arcanas. You want to really pay attention to their unique effect. You can see this is an attack support card, and it's a universal support card, meaning that any character that you put this card on will be able to get this additional benefit. Unlike other Arcanas where you need a specific class, be that archer, tank, support, mages, the drill. So you can see right here we have Nature's Grace. It states when bond points are at 70 or higher during training, additional strength stat gained +1. But essentially, whenever you're doing a run and you're selecting the stat that you want to level up, you will sometimes see the character depicted in your Arcana as a support partner in that node where you're going to get your stat. Each time you do that node with a character featured, that featured will get bond. And the higher bond they get, they will start to unlock better passives and will end up giving you additional stat points so that you get more bang for your buck every time you run that node with that specific character. Hopefully there was some B-roll on the screen so you can better understand my point. Pretty much every Arcana is going to have 3 journey events, which will trigger whenever you select a node with that character in it, or at least it has a chance to trigger. You want to click on this icon, and this is actually going to give you what are the possible potentials that you will get so you can level up on your journey. We can see that the most basic form of this will give you a slight increase on your self-attack for a certain percentage. But here's where you actually want SSR Arcana. You can see in health comes first, which is typically the 3rd one on SSR gear. On SSR Arcanas, if we tap it, we can see that this one has a bit of a different icon, and we can see it's a pretty good one. It says Stigmata of Attack, and we will get an additional 8% attack for our characters. So not only will SSR Arcanas give you additional stats faster, they also just overall have better passives that you will be able to transmit over to your characters. Now that you understand all of the components of an Arcana, let's talk about where are good stopping points for each Arcana before you even go to do a journey run. I have actually intentionally left out a stroll with friends so that I can show you this. So you can see this has a couple of plus points. Whenever you level this Arcana up, those points will become higher. And you can see it has different breakpoints. So for example, sensory training effectiveness +2% will be unlocked after we get them to level 35. Oh, and by the way, if you thought you had a lot of gold, you have not been leveling up your Arcanas because this cost a lot of gold. I would suggest you go all the way up so that you can unlock at least all of the possible stats that you have here for each individual character once you know that you want to use that character. Now, why am I using a stroll with friends? For an example, remember that if we go up to the third skill, we can see what passive we can actually land to our saviors. And you can see this one has an incredibly good one. It says grant self crit rate up for 2 turns at the start of the first battle, and that crit up is going to be for 30%. So you can see that's an incredible stat boost. On top of that, it has a chance to give you additional attack and HP for your savior while you're doing your journey. Incredibly good, right? However, if you don't have a caster, this really falls flat on its face. So even though it's a really good Arcana, I would not be leveling it up because I just don't have a caster that can take advantage of this. So if I was you, I would go ahead and review all of my SSR Arcanas and define which ones are worth it for me to level up to around that 35 range if it's an SSR. Now, what happens if you just don't care about Arcanas, you're not getting the SSR versions, and you just want to know if you can get good stats with SR? And the answer is yes. The only difference between SSR Arcanas and SR Arcanas are obviously number one, the stats that you will be getting, the fact that you don't get unique effects with them, and that their tier 3 rewards will be pretty crappy. For example, this only gives you an increased crit rate of around 3%. However, it is a universal crit rate. This does not have to be a specific class, so especially when you don't have a big Arcana rosters, you do still want to take a look at those third skills and really define what you can get. This would be a pretty decent one because it's going to give you that attack main stat, and then it will give you some additional crit rate for your character. Something like Ready Aim Fire is going to give you some additional speed stats, and the very sad cards that you want to make sure that you're not taking into your journey are any R-rated ones, because you can see they don't even give you those additional stat points, so this is just a completely wasted card. Okay, so now that we actually know our basic components of Arcanas, now we can actually go into a journey run to explain a couple more things. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do an Asherah run because I think I can get a little bit more attack so that her DPS can be better. You can click auto equip here, which is perfectly fine. However, I would recommend you actually look at the units that it's giving you and define if you can actually make a good team based on those 3 units. Because keep in mind, it's not just about slapping characters on here, you actually want to be able to clear it, and if all possible, you want to clear the new difficulty on your first run, so that on your subsequent runs, you can just go ahead and skip every single battle and you can just focus on the really fun stuff. Which again, might be a hot take, but I actually find this game mode really fun when it comes to actually getting your build and you understand what you're doing. So hear me out. I think this is good enough. We'll go ahead and click confirm. Now right here, you see I got all of my SSR Arcanas. However, I'm going to remove them all, and we're actually going to do this manually. Now, Asherah wants to have the most amount of HP possible, so I'll go ahead and pull up the Vitality ones and the attack ones, because Asherah does follow-up attacks, and those follow-up attacks actually do a pretty good chunk of damage. So I want her to be doing a lot of DPS, but I also want her supportive capabilities to keep my team alive. So I'm going to select those 2, I'm going to hit confirm, and now the world is my oyster. She's not a caster, so this immediately gets ignored. But that 8% attack boost, that sounds incredible. So I'm going to go ahead and select my Under the Glass Moon. If we go into the Imaginary Pioneer, I could also go ahead and get her for some increased self-special skill damage by a certain percentage after attacking with a special skill. Her special skill is actually an attack, so we'll go ahead and slap that onto her as well. And even though I have more attack pieces, we can see that they're mainly for assassins and for casters. So as far as I'm concerned, there are no more strength ones that are really worth my time. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill the last 3 slots with HP ones. You can see I still don't have much of a choice. I'm just going to slap the 3 SR Arcanas that I have because I don't want to touch any of the R-rated. So we're going to go ahead and select this, and select this. If you see, I actually got them to level 25 so that I could get all of the basic effects from these ones, so we could get the most amount of stats possible. Let me know if you guys want in the future how to do an auto journey and how to get the max value of it possible. After you watch this video, and if you actually pay attention, you should be able to have a pretty good idea on how to maximize this, but let me know if you guys would want that and I'll make a video in the future. Now we're actually ready to begin our journey. Let's go ahead and click confirm, and then I'll talk only about some key moments. Definitely make sure that you put on short in all events. Let me go ahead and speed through this run, and then I'll come back with you once there's something actually interesting to talk about. Okay, so right at the start, you see we have 3 nodes, which is training, quest, and rest. Quests are an absolute scam and are just a way for you to get some additional gold. You're really never gonna need this. And then rest is your worst enemy. Doing a rest is essentially just wasting a day where you could have been getting stats. Throughout your whole run, you only want to rest between 2 to 3 times. That is it. If you are resting more than that, you are leaving a bunch of stats on the table. Now, as you know, each time that you do one of these modes, you will consume stamina. So how the hell are you supposed to rest 2 to 3 times per run? Well, that's thanks to the focus training and the protection training. As you can see, whenever you do focus training or protection training, you're actually getting a little bit of stamina back, which is around 5 stamina. Whenever there's not really any good nodes for a day, you want to make sure that you are using these so that you're still getting a couple of stats, but you're also refreshing your stamina. And ideally, you want to do that whenever you see a bunch of partners within this nodes. Now here, for example, I got extremely lucky because I have 4 partners on this vitality node. Now this is exactly what I was talking about a little bit earlier. Your main priority for the first 2 sections of a journey will always be to max out all of your companions. In the beginning, you really don't care about selecting the vitality node or the endurance node or the strength node. You do not care about that. You just want to max out the bond of all of your support units. So here again, I got very lucky. I'm going to go ahead and click the vitality check. But whenever you're making a decision on which stat to level up, remember for the first 2 sections, before you go either to the beach or the hot springs, you are hammering down, just maxing out bond levels. Here's a perfect example of when you want to use focus training or protection training over your vitality. My vitality here, I could do it because it's the main stat I want to level up. However, you can see there's nobody here. Well, I can go into focus training, level up 3 bonds, get some stamina back, and still get a little bit of vitality. Not to mention, you're also going to farm up your potential points, which you're going to want to need at the end of which you're going to want a bunch of at the end of your run so that you can actually get those really good passives that your Arcanas are going to give you. You can see how this is all starting to come together. We're going to go ahead and click on training, and we'll do this one for the HP. And then you just cycle through this, right? You always want to check all of the notes to see how many companions you have. And this one, again, I got pretty lucky. I can go ahead and click the vitality training, I can click the vitality training and get 2 of my bonds leveled up. So I'll definitely go ahead and do that. And as you can see, because now you're being more intentional with everything that you're doing, it's going to be just more engaging and overall more fun because you actually know what it is that you're clicking on instead of just putting like random inputs. Now, obviously, when the game prompts you to go ahead and go into a store, you're going to want to go ahead and do that because it's not going to consume you any time. And it's just a good way to get some additional stats or some trinkets that are going to help you throughout your journey mode. So if you stick to that plan, guys, even though I didn't spam every single node for the HP, I was still able to max it out for what we're currently at, which is medium, which is getting those 750 points on HP. And I was still able to get a very respectable 308 attack, as well as the B+ defense, right? I'm still going to do a couple of runs because I'm pretty sure that I could get the attack to at least A+. But like everything, there will be some RNG involved. Hopefully this breakdown helped you understand this mode a little bit better, and the next time you go in there, you can have a little bit of fun while you're actually building your units. Anyway, see ya. By the way, I made a guild if anybody wants to join.